Wow, no more IRS? Could you imagine a day? I was talking to a friend last night who said, I never thought I'd see this day. I never thought I'd see a day where maybe we could actually be getting rid of the IRS, income taxes for good. Listen to this. I mean, you should see the expression on Jesse's face here. He's a little bit shocked, the Fox News anchor, because Howard Lutnick, who, by the way, I've known many years, don't forget, he was the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. He went through hell and back after 9/11. We can talk about that. But here he is saying Donald Trump wants to get rid of the IRS. And Howard's a pretty serious guy. I want you to hear it.
Well, think about it. Donald Trump announces the External Revenue Service, and his goal is very simple. His goal is to abolish the Internal Revenue Service and let all the outsiders pay. I mean, this is someone who is focused on America.
Wow, right? That's kind of fascinating. We'll just get rid of it altogether. We'll replace it with the ERS, the External Revenue Service. I mean, Donald Trump's looking to fire 6,000 IRS agents already, sort of sending a signal there. Just to point out about Howard, when Howard says this, if like it were anybody else, if it was just a pundit, I'd be like, okay. But this is Howard Lutnick, who is now our Commerce Secretary. Okay, the Commerce Secretary of the United States of America is saying that Donald Trump wants to abolish the IRS. So you have to kind of take it a little bit more seriously than if it was just some random pundit on television. Howard's kind of a big deal. And again, he has a phenomenal background. Don't forget, CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. And for those of you that remember those horrific events in 9/11, listen, Howard was personally affected just in a massive way because that firm got gutted. He lost his brother. And you know what? He got a lot of negative attention around that time, even though he was trying to do everything he could for his employees and their families. A lot of negative attention, which he brought up on a recent podcast, in part because I think he understands the media and how nasty the media can be. Listen to this. Ladies and gentlemen, your new Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, a true patriot that went through hell and back on 9/11.
The media, which had said lovely things about us, trying to rebuild the company, trying to take care of the families. And we had the mass murder of 658 people who work for us. They say he must be lying. He's crying crocodile tears. The murder of my brother, my best friend, all my surrounding people and all the people I hired is insufficient to get a guy who wears a suit to cry. Bill O'Reilly every night, death threats, calling me names. Rosie O'Donnell calling me names. Everybody's calling me names. All I did was have everyone around me get killed. And I tried to help them. But the media builds you up and then they whack you down.
Yeah, he gets it, right? He knows. You know who else knows? Rosie O'Donnell. I'm just going to tell you, Howard, don't take it that personally. It was Rosie O'Donnell. And we all know Rosie O'Donnell. Trump was on to her years ago.
Mr. Trump, one of the things people love about you is you speak your mind and you don't use a politician's filter. However, that is not without its downsides, in particular when it comes to women. You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't.
I mean, wow. You know what? The guy's got some chops, right? He knew exactly how to diffuse, if you would, this situation because it was a heck of a question, but he immediately diffused it. Rosie O'Donnell, look, she's been a thorn in his side, I guess, forever. She does something now. I occasionally run across her in some clips, but here he is. I mean, so long as we're on the Rosie thing, talking about Rosie O'Donnell at the Al Smith dinner.
Last night I called Hillary a nasty woman. But this stuff is all relative. After listening to Hillary rattle on and on and on, I don't think so badly of Rosie O'Donnell anymore. In fact, I'm actually starting to like Rosie a lot.
He's funny, okay? But anyway, I just bring it up because Howard Lutnick, again, Howard Lutnick saying, listen, this is serious. He wants to get rid of the IRS. He wants to abolish the IRS. He wants to completely turn on its heels. How we think about taxes. All right. And Howard, as I said, like you may not know him well, or maybe you knew him from Rosie O'Donnell, as you said, which, take that one with a grain of salt. But he has run Cantor Fitzgerald for years, and he ran Cantor Fitzgerald through that really, really tragic time. So he's a serious guy. And it means we kind of should be looking at this seriously, right? I mean, you think about the $6.75 trillion that the U.S. government is taking in. My colleague over at 76 Research and I were looking at some of these numbers today. And so that's like a lot of money. So how much of that actually comes from income tax? It turns out it's a little over 2 trillion or so. Yeah, like 2.1 or 2.3 trillion. So that's a lot of money, is it not? If you put certain things aside, like, what we're bringing in from the surplus of Medicare, it gets you down to 5 trillion. So we got to bring in 5 trillion. Now, if 2 and change is coming from income tax, how are you going to make that up? 21% goes to Social Security right now, 15% to Medicare, 14% to defense, 13% to interest on our debt. That's why Elon's so worked up about it. 13% to health, whatever that is, maybe it includes Medicaid, and then 9% to income security, possibly food stamps. You've got 6% going to veterans, 3% going to educational training. I imagine that'll go by the wayside. 2% to transportation, 2% to natural resources and environments, and 3% other. So what are they trying to do? Trying to get rid of the other, trying to get rid of all the things that we don't need in the budget. And they're trying to say, let's turn this on its heels. Like, what if, for example, we actually taxed China when they send stuff here? Would that work? I throw that out there because, people worry that it's going to be inflationary. It might be inflationary temporarily, but at some point, right, we'd actually start sourcing a lot of that stuff right here in the good old US of A. And isn't that kind of where you want to be going? To have as much manufacturing right here at home? Well, if we do that, Spiritfield, thank you so much. I want to get to all your comments in a moment. If you do that and you start putting the tariffs on, okay, great. At some point, do we make everything at home? And then in that case, how are you going to get this 2 trillion in change if you're not getting it from imports? At that point, do you put what's called a VAT tax on? Listen, I'm going to just tell you guys, I like the idea of a consumption tax. I always have, because I really despise the idea of penalizing working Americans. You go out there, you're working, you make money, and Uncle Sam's like, gimme, to redistribute your hard-earned dollars. I don't like that. I fundamentally don't like that. And that is where Trump and I are in complete agreement. Why not start to think about this innovatively? I mean, first of all, half the country doesn't even pay any federal income tax. That's for sure. So you're going to have to deal with getting that 2 trillion in change from elsewhere. But I think it's possible. I mean, you got some smart people there. Some really, really smart people that are thinking about this in ways that, frankly, we never thought about it before. And if nothing else, I find that pretty darn exciting. They're also saying, hey, wait a second, this is out of control. We can't keep spending all this interest on our debt. And do we really need to be spending 3% on educational training? Wonder what that is. Is that, so that the coaches on the girls' soccer team know what to say when asked what to say about somebody who was born a man being on the soccer team? I wonder, right? You're getting rid of USAID. You're going to save like $50 billion right then and there. And there's more cost savings that can happen.